This amendment replaces the words adult relative with parent to ensure that children are kept together with their parents or legal guardians in CBP custody, and not just with any adult relative. In my multitude of visits to the border and detention facilities and watching people surrendering, I have always been astounded at that there almost always is an even number of adult people with children. And that's done because of our current longstanding practice that family units consist of a parent or legal guardian, but we're only able to confirm a parent-child relationship through birth certificates, legal documents, and in some limited cases through DNA testing. But now this bill would require CBP to consider any adult relative of a child or a human trafficker and posing as an adult relative of a child to be part of a family unit. This year alone, more than 5,000 children as parts of false family units have been found out and protected from the human trafficker that was using them to create a family unit. That would not be possible, quite frankly, under 3239. The outer limits of the relationship is left undefined. Is it brothers and sisters? Is it aunts and uncles? To what degree of consanguinity do we even consider? Presumably even distant relatives. Of course, it would be ideal for children to stay with their adult relatives in a perfect world, but we don't live in such a world. We live in a world where children are exploited and trafficked, a world where our laws incentivize the use of a child to illegally enter the United States. I spoke recently about a young girl, 11 years old, who was being kept in Charleston, South Carolina, who had been used and manipulated and exploited by human traffickers. She was there responsible for two children, two small boys, who were awaiting reuse by human traffickers from the Yuma port of entry. Fortunately, CBP, together with ICE, local LEOs, and FBI, were able to go in and save those three children. There's already a loophole in immigration law created by the Flores Settlement Agreement that prevents children from being detained with their parents for longer than 20 days. The practical effect of this loophole is that virtually no family unit is detained. This incentivizes individuals to bring a child with them when they cross the border to ensure they are released into the interior of the country. And that incentive is so great that human traffickers refer to children as passports. And DHS has identified an increasing number of fraudulent cases where adults pose as a child's parent or legal guardian in order to gain entry into the United States. The language in this allows them to expand who would be considered the family unit. The incentive to bring a child will be exacerbated, while DHS's efforts to identify a true relationship and prevent the trafficking of children for nefarious purposes would be made even more difficult. This new requirement will incentivize child traffickers to pose as distant relatives to evade detection, and this is unacceptable. We should be closing legal loopholes like the Flores Settlement Agreement, not expanding them. This amendment does not end the Flores Settlement Agreement, but it would at least keep the status quo, ensuring that children stay together with their parents and legal guardians without extending the legal loophole to distant relatives and human traffickers who would fraudulently pose as such relatives to bring children into the United States for nefarious purposes. I urge my colleagues to vote for this amendment to ensure that we're protecting children, not creating more reasons under our laws to exploit children. And I just want to make an additional comment that illegal reentry into the United States of America is a felony. And I want to bring two important cases from my own district where someone who committed that felony of reentry, who had been deported, come back, murdered Grant Ronnebeck, the son of Steve Ronnebeck, and another who had also been deported and reentered, committing that felony of reentry, killed Brandon Mendoza, son of Marianne Mendoza, in my district. And so I think it's important to never forget the separation that occurred for the Ronnebeck and the Mendoza families. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.